Hey, buddy. Rah. Hey, man, that's a sweet heavy metal happy hour t-shirt. Where'd you pick that up?
Thanks, dude. I got it at the Toxic Radio shop.
Toxic Radio has a shop?
Yeah, dude. It's in the app or online at toxicradio.net.
That is sweet.
Yeah, and I also got a rockin' Toxic Radio hoodie and a Red Band Underground shirt. Dude, I'm gonna look so rockin' at the party tomorrow.
Well, I think you look pretty now.
Oh, wait, what?
The Toxic Radio shop is a place to get all your Toxic Radio gear. Shirts, hoodies, stickers. Find it at toxicradio.net or on the app. Don't buy it safe. Buy it toxic. Hey, where you going, man? Like listening to Toxic Radio?
Goddamn right.
But don't forget, this is the 21st century. Join us in the social media world. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pornhub.
Pornhub?
Nah, just kidding. Or am I? Toxic Radio. Get infected. Planning your Saturday night can be a bit of a bitch.
Saturday night is the loneliest night in the week.
Well, it doesn't have to be. Load up Toxic Radio every Saturday night for the heavy metal happy hour. With the one and only Fishman.
I know that, dude.
There will be interviews, ticket giveaways, a little bit of banter with Toxic Mike, and of course great metal from the 80s all the way through today. Starts at 7 p.m., runs until Fish says it's over.
Everyone get out!
Catch it only on Toxic Radio. Don't play it safe. Play it toxic.
Hungry for Hope Nation. This is your co-host, Reckless Donnie Hart, and I am here with my co-host,
Big time Tim Gudgeon.
Good job, Tim. I feel like your introduction gets better every week. I love it.
I practice in the mirror every day.
That's great. That's what you got to do in life.
Literally all day. That's all I do.
Well, Tim, I know you're excited for today's show. You haven't stopped talking about it. We got an awesome guest coming on. We're gonna have him on in a little bit. Tell us about the guest, Tim. You haven't shut up about him all week.
Oh man, I've been watching.
Tim's been riding around on a bicycle all week. Like, I want to be a BMXer.
Taught myself how to ride a bike for the first time. Took the training wheels off. It was great. But Tony Hoffman's coming on. He's a legendary, what's the word for it? Speaker, professional speaker, essentially. Yeah. He's been through a lot of trials and tribulations, just like both of us on Hungry for Hope. So he's going to come on, talk about his experience, talk about some of the things that he has going on, and, you know, you definitely look forward to it. If you've seen the pre-show hype Donnie's been posting all over the internet and you watch some of his videos, you definitely have the same excitement level as us, so we just can't wait to have him on.
He's great because, you know, we always talk about, like, don't let your current circumstances define your future. And this is a guy who literally was it was very similar to our one guest, Shangri-La, who trained to break her world record in the Guinness Book of World Records. She trained for it while in rehab.
Right.
And, you know, people in rehab, you don't go to rehab because things are going right, you know. He went to prison. You don't go to prison. They don't send people to prison for doing the right thing. And sometimes that can break a man. I've been there. And, you know, you lost loved ones. You're usually there because your life's fucked up, you know. Let's be honest. And he was able to get that mindset, not let that – there's a lot of negativity in there. And he was able to let his mind be stronger. And he trained. And he got out and said, hey, he set goals. He you know, we'll have him on. We'll talk about it more. But he set goals. He said, when I get out of here, I'm going to be a professional BMXer. He wasn't even a pro yet. It wasn't like he was a professional. You know, he had a good little career when he was a teenager. But he said, I'm going to get out. Now, I'm going to be a speaker. Who thinks of that? You know, I'm going to be a speaker. I'm going to travel and tell my story. I'm going to be a professional BMXer. And I'm going to be I'm going to be in the Olympics.
And start a nonprofit.
Yeah, could you imagine? You know, people thought he was crazy. he said, people just didn't believe in it. Everybody likes to look at somebody. Nobody can really see what's in somebody's heart. And I'm sure a lot of people told him he was stupid and to stop, but he didn't let that. He didn't let everything going on in his life control his mind. That's your most powerful thing. And we're gonna have Tony on right now, and he's gonna talk. And Tony, you there? Tony Hoffman coming live.
I'm here, and so are some dogs. So I hope you don't mind that.
Man, we usually only allow one guest per show, but we're gonna make an exception for you.
Sweet, you're getting 3 today.
What's up, Tone? How you doing? Thanks so much for coming on.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Things are turning around. COVID's the lockdowns are lightening up a little bit, and clients are coming back, so to speak, a little bit. And I've just been working on some other projects in the meantime, so I can't complain with life, to be honest.
That's awesome, man. I'm sure you're a busy man. I follow a lot of stuff you got going on. We told some of our viewers a little about you, and but you asking you questions is really the best way to find out about you. First off,
yeah, for sure.
You're a professional BMXer. Not a lot of people know exactly about that. What is being a professional BMXer?
So I come from a racing background. I'm not a freestyle guy. We don't do tricks. I'd like to think that the guys that couldn't race are the ones that get into tricks. It's not that it's easier. It's just a different pathway, probably more rewarding on the financial side of things if you get into freestyle, just because there's more endorsements. You have TV venues that draw bigger crowds when it comes to freestyle. BMX is very niche. It's a racing sport of 400 meters in distance. You typically have 4 straightaways. We're power athletes. By every definition, we're a power athlete. We go 0 to 30 miles an hour in under 2.5 seconds. When the gate drops, it's like a 100-meter sprint, only we don't have lanes. So the most powerful guy can move over on the guy next to him or the girl next to them. Jumps can range anywhere from 10 to 50 feet on the course. It just depends on what kind of course you're racing and where you're at. And you spend a lot of your time just like any other professional athlete, right? You build a strong routine, you discipline yourself to that routine, and you structure your life for very, very few specific goals in mind. And, just like a basketball player, a weightlifter, or baseball player, track and field person, your life becomes sport. And that's what it is for us. It's just a sport that not a lot of people know about, even though it's an Olympic sport. It's been an Olympic sport since 2008. Obviously, the sport has grown immensely in terms of the discipline required to compete at the highest level. The Olympics helped tighten that up. I don't know if you guys are familiar with motocross, but Ricky Carmichael really changed the game for supercross athletes, right? He got on a road bike and started, training to win instead of just letting his talent ride. And we saw a lot of that in BMX happen from 2000, from 2000 to 2020. We've seen a tremendous growth in the sport in terms of discipline.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can definitely relate. I did professional wrestling. It's a little different. I wore spandex. Yeah. You might have wore spandex too. I'm not sure, but I can definitely your mindset. How my whole life was, I gave up everything just for wrestling. I woke up, I had to do the weightlifting, the tanning. I trained for like 8 hours a day, and it's not, it's not baseball, basketball. So some people aren't too familiar. People bust jokes.
Well, don't minimize. It's just it's just the pathway that you took, man. And regardless, I know somebody that was a professional wrestler himself. Not everybody gets to be a professional wrestler, and there's a certain level of dedication that you have to get there as well. So it's a craft, Yeah. And it's the craft you were gifted with. So
now for me, I fell in love with wrestling because of guys like Hulk Hogan and the Legion of Doom. What was there a certain thing that made you fall in love? It's not a common thing to go after the profession you went. What made you fall in love?
My dad was a professional motocross racer as a kid, and he never let us get on motorcycles. But we were always around racing growing up. We were around Indy cars. We were around sprint cars. We were around stock cars. We were around motocross. And, I would say that racing's in our blood. And when I say it means my dad, my mom, my brother, and myself. We're a racing family. And BMX was the easiest and most affordable sport to get into that was racing oriented, right? You get a go-kart, that's thousands of dollars. You get a sprint car, you're talking even more thousands of dollars. And so for us to get on a bicycle, I think it just kind of made more sense. And that was something that my dad introduced us to when we were really young. We didn't continue it, but my brother came back to it when he was a teenager. And, when my life started to kind of experience the mental health struggles that I speak about as a speaker, like 12, 13 years old, I had quit the avenues of action sports that I was in and got onto racing a bicycle because my parents started having me go out to the BMX track with the family. And so it was just like I was there, my brother was racing, and my dad just said, hey, why don't you try it? You got a bike at home. If you like it, we'll get you a better bike. And so that's what I did. I tried it, and my mind just works really well with racing. I just have a racer's mentality. I don't like coaches, so to speak, in a team sport environment. Racing was something that I had control of 100% from start to finish. And I just really gravitated towards it because I was in control. I could work as hard as I wanted to. And the only person I could blame at the finish line for not achieving the result that I wanted was myself.
That's awesome, man. And you did talk about you had some struggles. It wasn't all, perfect. Nothing in life's perfect. Back 2004, 2006, you were arrested. I know you speak about problems you had, anxiety, depression, drug addiction.
Yeah. So I was gifted as an athlete. I got into BMX at 12 years old, was on the cover of the largest BMX racing magazine at 18 years old, sponsored by Fox Racing, Airwalk shoes, Spy sunglasses. Had a tremendous amount of success as an amateur for the small amount of time that I had been racing a bicycle. And yet, despite my success, I still had a very big internal struggle that I was facing. And I was facing it because I really wasn't dealing with it. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I was ashamed to talk about anxiety. I was ashamed to talk about my depression. I was, so resentful of myself for this social anxiety that I had. I wanted to be the life of the party. I wanted to be, the person that just could be friends with anybody and everybody. But my personal, my makeup doesn't allow me to be that. It still doesn't. As a speaker, I still have social anxiety. When I get on stage, I get into character. And there's a huge difference between me getting into character and pouring my life into trying to change somebody's life versus me just freely moving around crowds and talking to people openly in a way that I don't want to say is empty, because we can socialize and there not necessarily need to be some kind of strategic outcome where we're both learning or taking from each other in a positive way. You just could be socializing, right? But I'm not that person. I don't socialize well. My social anxiety doesn't allow that. And so, at 18 years old, I had all of these emotions that I wasn't speaking about in therapy. I wasn't communicating it to my family. My family is, I would say, very emotionally unintelligent. And that's not to speak against them in any way, because my mother and father have been married for 46 years, have been an exemplary, model of a marriage for me to see, right? They've had provided everything that I needed, but emotionally, that's not their strongest place. And so, not having a place to actually, release these emotions that were negative or that I didn't know how to understand was causing me to be under a high volume of stress, mental health stress, right? More anxiety, more depression, suicidal thoughts. And so the first effective coping mechanism that I thought I found was substances that changed the way I felt. I wasn't much of a drinker. Drinking never really did much for me. I have a very soft stomach, so I found myself throwing up before I could ever get that, buzz or drunken feeling that would allow me to escape from what I was trying to run from. And so, pot was the first thing I felt that, was like, okay, this works, smoking weed works a little bit, but it really wasn't that great because it made me more anxious and it made me super paranoid. And then I found prescription. Hold on.
Hey, that's our other guest.
Yeah.
Hey, no problem. Sometimes I bark on air too. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But
if my dog hears the UPS driver or the FedEx driver, she's going nuts, man. She loves everybody but the person that rings the doorbell. That person just doesn't deserve to have life. But, you know, when I found prescription painkillers, that was the miracle drug for myself because it took away my anxiety, it took away my depression, it took away my suicidal thoughts. And I went into using those substances with the mindset that I would never become an addict because an addict chooses to become an addict, right? An addict is somebody that has, you know, a lack of willpower, no discipline. They don't know how to structure their life. These were like the false belief systems that I had about those who struggle with addiction. And so I just wanted them to feel better. Just wanted drugs to feel better. And the only thing that could make me feel better up to that point in my life from 18 to 23 years old, or at least I thought, were these substances that changed the way I felt. The most effective one being opioid painkillers that were prescribed by a doctor. I thought also that because it came from a doctor, shit, it's got to be safe. They're not going to give you something that's going to ruin your life. You know, it took a few years for me to realize the stuff that came out of the orange bottle was no different than the stuff that came from the cartel. It was just packaged different. Because it was packaged different, we thought it was safe. But once you got into it, you went through the same withdrawals, you went through the same experience as heroin. You went through the same experience as you would if you were using fentanyl. And so it took over my life. It took over my decision-making process. And every day from 18 to 23 years old became, how do I get this substance to make me feel okay? And how do I get enough of this substance to where I don't ever have to feel not okay, which is basically me not being on drugs. If I'm not on drugs, I don't feel okay from 18 to 23 years old. I have a group of emotions, a storm or a hurricane of emotions that are pushing into my life that are so uncomfortable. I have to escape those at every hour. The only time I don't have to escape from them is when I'm asleep.
Absolutely. My co-host Tim, we were reading your story, and he's been down that road. Exactly, we can relate so much. Tim, what do you get out of?
So I was reading an article where you're being interviewed. I think it was Risen.com, Risen Magazine.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw something that kind of resonated with me. At one point, you were saying you were like, you didn't necessarily want to die, but you accepted the fact that you were going to, or it could happen from drugs. And I was kind of at that same point, right? I didn't want to die, but I kind of accepted the fact, like, this is most likely my fate. If I keep doing heroin, keep doing opiates, it's going to be the end result one way or the other. And I kind of, in my head, came to terms with it. And then I almost did. I had a very near fatal overdose. And when I came to, got back on my feet, like, after spending some time in the hospital, I had some stuff wrong with me due to that overdose. I had the overwhelming will to live. It was like that, I hate to, like, the come to Jesus moment, essentially. Did you have something like that in your addiction, or, like, just something like that happen to you? And if so,
Absolutely.
what happened?
January 21st, 2007, I had a spiritual experience. It was a real come to Jesus moment. I don't run around and try and splash people with holy water and put my hands on their forehead and bring them to Jesus too. I just tell my truth, right? And my truth is that I had a spiritual awakening that was beyond a reasonable doubt for myself. I had a friend call me in 2005 and tell me that God had given him a vision, and I was in this vision, and I was going to get 3 significant chances. And if I didn't stop doing what I was doing before these chances took place, I was going to go to prison. And a year went by, and in November of 2006, I was pulled over 3 times in 4 days. And every time I was pulled over, I should have been arrested and my probation should have been violated. I was on felony probation. I was pulled out of the car the first 2 times. The first time I hit a needle between my ass cheeks. So when they were searching me, they didn't find the needles. The second time I had 64 Oxycontins in a bag that I stashed between my ass cheeks. So when they pulled me out of the car, they didn't find them. I lied to the cop when he pulled me over the second time. I was a passenger in a car, and I said I wasn't on probation or parole. And he came back and he said, "Why'd you lie to me?" And I said, "Well, you asked if I was on parole. I'm not on parole. I'm on probation." And he put me in the back of the car after searching me. And he tried to call my probation officer. It was Thanksgiving night at 10:30 at night. And I think that she just didn't want to answer the phone. She'd been with family, you know. She's not trying to deal with this stuff at 10:30 at night. So He called her 3 times, 2 or 3 times, and afterwards he was like, "This is your lucky night, Mr. Hoffman. I'm letting you go." He goes, I'm not going to take you to jail if your probation officer doesn't give me permission. And so I get back in the car. The next day goes by. I don't get pulled over. The following day, I get pulled over again. I'm a passenger in every one of these cars because I don't own a car at this time. I'm pretty much homeless at this point. And I'm sleeping in the street. I'm sleeping at hotels. I'm at my bottom. And the third time I get pulled over, I'm in a car that I didn't know had fake tags. The tags in the back of the car were construction paper. And the cop pulls us over, comes up to the car and says, "Do you know the tags are fake on this car?" And she pulled them off of the license plate, and she's holding up this piece of construction paper. And I think to myself, "Oh shit, man, there's no way. Like, this is, I got drugs on me right now. I have no time to hide them." The driver had drugs on her. She didn't even have a license. And the cop goes, license and registration. She goes, "I don't have a license on me." She starts crying. We were Christmas shopping. We got shoes in the back. We were just at the mall. And she said, "Okay, well, give me the insurance and the registration on the vehicle." So we start searching for the registration and insurance, and we can't find any. So the cop goes back to the car and runs the car, and it turns out the car hadn't been registered in 5 years. So she comes back and she says, "The car hasn't been registered in 5 years." And I'm like, "Okay, here we go. Who's on parole or probation?" That's the next question. And we're going to get these people out of the car. Backup's going to show up. We're going to start searching people. We're going to find the drugs. I got a backpack with like 100 needles in it behind me. And she says, "Sit tight," comes back to the car, and she gives us a yellow piece of paper and says, "Take this car back to the person you borrowed it from immediately." And I remember thinking to myself, wait a minute, no way. Like, come on. Like, who's on parole or probation? Like, I'm just waiting. And no, she let us go. I couldn't believe it. It was right in front of the college. It was like in one of the worst parts of Fresno, too. It was like, there's no way. She either wanted to go home, or there was some kind of circumstance that she wasn't going to do due diligence on this car, and she was going to let us drive it home. And when she got back in the car and left, I remember thinking to myself, that was the 3 chances that Adam was talking about. And my girlfriend was like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, he said I was going to get 3 significant chances in this vision he saw. If I didn't stop doing what I was doing before these chances took place, I was going to go to prison." And I said, "I think I'm going to prison soon." And that was in November 2006. In January 2007, I was invited to church by this guy that I was buying dope from. He said, "I want you to go to church with me." And I'm not a church guy at this time, and I just thought it was all, for money and for people that were weak, and, all these, false belief systems that society comes up for spiritual individuals, mainly Christians. And I go to this church. Turns out this dude's a minister in the church. It's a guy's drug dealer that's a minister in the church. And it's, I always tell people, if a drug dealing minister doesn't make sense, I always say, well, then we're really going to struggle with the flaming bush that talked to Moses to tell him what God needed from him, right? So if he can use a flaming bush, he can easily use a drug dealing minister. And I think that God, of my understanding, is using people, places, and things around us to show us that there's something greater than ourselves, and we have a specific purpose on earth. And for me, it was that day, because I went up to that altar call. The guy laid his hands. Hey, shh. Guy lays his hands. The guy lays his hands on my forehead, and immediately I started crying. I have no idea why. And he says that God has favored you your entire life and everything you've done. And right after that, he says, "You don't have to worry anymore. He's going to remove you from your addiction." I never met this guy. This guy didn't know anything about me. I was wearing a double XL Dickies blue jean jacket with blood stains all over it. I was wearing size 36 LRG jeans, and I had size 12 Shaquille O'Neal basketball shoes on. I'm 170 pounds. My waist at this time was probably a 27. And so I was wearing clothes that I looked homeless, because I basically was. So this guy that told me that I was favored my entire life, I didn't look favored. I looked cursed. And something inside of me just said, "I believe this is real. This is real. I can't believe this is real." And that night I broke into a house that was up for rent. At 2 p.m. the next day, I was arrested by 4 police that came into the house. And 30 days later, I was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. And while I was in prison, I became a man of spirituality. I became a man of spiritual principles. The only way that I could get those spiritual principles was through the calling that I found, and that was through Jesus Christ. I just started reading the book, the Bible, obviously. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not making this a sermon. This is just my personal experience. I think that people can find what I found in many different spiritual avenues. But I think the core is that we are spiritual beings that have a spiritual purpose. And if we truly want to reach our potential, if we truly want to make a legacy, an impact of legacy that has momentum that's infinite, we must find ourselves in a place of spirituality, because it's the only place in which we can truly evaluate ourselves with unbiased and a rigorous honesty that it takes to embrace our spiritual power, this gift that we were given that we didn't ask for, that many of us have been denying most of our life, right? And so I'm in prison and I'm submitting my life, I'm surrendering my life to something that I can't see through faith. And I just felt this overwhelming push to get back on my bicycle. Something was telling me I needed to get back on my bicycle. And then I felt like this same something was telling me I'm supposed to go to the Olympics and I'm supposed to start a program for kids and that I'm supposed to become a speaker, because my life experiences are what people need to hear to overcome their own struggles. And so I spent that time, which ended up being 2 years in prison, developing this relationship with this thing I couldn't see, with this voice that I've always heard but denied, and disciplining myself through willingness to be obedient to whatever direction it is that I was told to go by this voice. And I was made fun of immensely. I was told that it was bullshit. I told that I was going to come back to prison. My parole agent told my mom I was going back to prison within 30 days because this whole thing was a fucking joke, and that I just needed a place to stay when I got out of prison. He called my mom a fool to her face and said that he was going to pick me back up within 30 days. He guaranteed it. But what he didn't understand is that when I felt like I had a purpose in my life due to this spiritual experience, I was willing to do whatever it took. And for me, I started rebuilding my life with very small, insignificant choices. But I told myself, if I can treat these small, insignificant choices the same as I would something that most people would say is an extremely prestigious place or prestigious thing, then I could slowly find myself get there, not because of talent, not because of some kind of privilege, but because opportunity came to me one small item at a time, and I would graduate from these small opportunities that would become bigger over time, but I was treating every opportunity exactly the same. And so, my life was really just a result of this spiritual experience. That was what changed me, man. I don't know how else to say it. That was my experience, and I just tell it the way it is. And I can't wrap my head around any kind of coincidences, because somebody tells me I'm going to get these three chances happen. Then I go to prison and I feel like I'm being told I'm supposed to do these 4 things. And I actually do all 4 of these things. At what point do coincidences end and it actually be what was happening? I don't know.
Yeah. I remember seeing when you were locked up, you said you saw that quote on the wall, and it said
Yep.
I thought it was very impactful. It said be careful what you think, because your thoughts become your words.
Become your words.
Be careful what
Yep.
you say, because your words become your actions. And you could
Yep.
see that in the things you were doing. You said you'd wake up and brush your teeth to the best, the best of
Yep.
your ability. And I've been there.
And so really what happened was, and I've been using this analogy a lot. I was speaking a month ago and it came to me while I was in a speech. And for 23 years of my life, I lived in a prison cell. Not a physical one, a mental one, right? For 23 years of my life, I was the victim of society. I was the victim of people picking on me. I was the victim of my parents that treated me unfairly and not the same as my brother. I was the victim of as an athlete of coaches who were jealous of me or didn't want me to succeed. And everything in my life was surrounded by negativity, by a perspective that was against myself. And so I basically lived in a cell with concrete walls. There were no windows, there was no door, right? And then all of a sudden I have this spiritual experience. When I had this spiritual experience, I no longer lived in a concrete box. Everything became windows. And there was a fucking door. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. There's something outside of what I can see. And there's a way out of here. And so many of us do this to ourselves. So many of us have allowed what life has done to us in our early years, because life isn't fair. It's not going to ever be fair. And when we were children, we didn't get what we deserved, or something happened to us that shouldn't have happened to us. And as a result, we created these walls, these concrete walls, and decided that this is life. This is everything. And all these other people that I'm looking at, they get the windows, they get the doorways, they get the life that I've always wanted. Well, when I had a spiritual experience, the concrete walls became windows, and I found out that there was a door. The problem is you don't get to just go open the door because it's there. You actually have to do work. You have to do work, and God is working, or a spiritual thing is working in our lives around people, places, and things, and is giving us opportunities that we have a choice to take. And through taking those opportunities and doing the work, we are handed a set of keys that allow us to open the door that we see and walk into another room that also has more windows and another doorway, which is another layer of work that we must do. Many of us stay in the one room that we were what we created ourselves, and we'd never get out of it. We spend our entire life in it. And then there are those that realize that there's the doorway, and we want to do the work to get outside of that doorway. And then we realize that we must continue to do more work so we can get outside of that other doorway. And each time I have found that I've gone through one door and into another room, there's been 3 in my life since I've been in recovery for 13 and a half years, I've experienced a greater level of peace, a greater level of joy, and a greater understanding of my purpose in life, and what exactly that I'm supposed to be doing, and how I'm supposed to be doing it, and how this thing that's greater than myself is going to guide me through each one of those rooms and strengthen me through the struggles that I experience in life. I no longer see struggles as things that are working against me. I now see struggles as things that are working for me. They're teaching me what I'm going to need to learn when I get the keys to leave the room that I'm in right now, what I'm going to need to be able to succeed and get through the next door.
Awesome, man. You know, it speaks for itself, man. A lot of people are in that prison and inside. You know, people think prison, they think the cell walls, man. You don't have to be incarcerated to be in that prison. But eventually, you know, you got paroled in what, December 2008?
December 13th, 2008.
December 13th, 2008. And, you know, you're here because you reached your goals. When did you weren't pro until you got paroled?
I never raced pro before I got out of prison. You know, I was an amateur. I got out. I didn't race one day amateur. 5 months later, I got back on a bicycle, and I hadn't touched one in 7 years. I took 3rd place. The first year I won 5 races in the lower pro division. Moved up to the Olympic level 1 year after being back on my bicycle. Was invited to the Olympic Training Center by the United States of America 1 year after being back on my bicycle. Started public speaking in 2010, basically 1 year after I got out of prison. Started my nonprofit organization in 2012, and started coaching BMX athletes in 2012 after a career-ending knee injury in 2011.
So, you know, how crazy is that? Because when you did that, we've been there where you put your body through the drug use and stuff. Did you feel like your body was damaged at all when you came out? That's unbelievable that you were able to, you know, achieve so much without being on a bike in 7 years. Did you feel like your body...
No, I think I was on the verge. I was real close, man. You know, at my bottom, I was using meth so heavily, I was up for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days at a time. And I specifically remember one day towards the bottom when I was homeless, that I was just talking to myself, as people who are hopped up on meth can do in psychosis. And I just remember thinking to myself that my brain doesn't even work anymore. Like I'm talking to myself and I'm stuttering to myself. And I've had childhood friends that I know now who are, completely burnt out. They're not who they were anymore. Their brain doesn't work the same. They don't talk the same. Um, very unfortunate events, but they've been using drugs since we were 18. I'm 36 years old now. You use drugs like that for prolonged periods of time, it has some very detrimental effects. Now, I lost 3 teeth, smoking meth, I lost 3 teeth in 6 months. Um, but outside of that, I was lucky. I didn't have any physical maladies that came with my drug use. I didn't have Hep C, never contracted HIV. I was healthy as a clam once I stopped. It just took me a while to get my body to be physically fit again and healthy. And once I did that, it's just been about taking care of my body and treating it with care. I mean, obviously, I'm not super crazy about my diet anymore because I'm not competing, but I was very fortunate that I didn't have any ailments as a result of my drug addiction outside of some mental stuff that's come with it. But I have therapy and self healing that I do to try and alleviate those things.
That's unbelievable. But got into the coaching thing. Your story that they say from prison to the Olympics. That's like it sounds good, but tell us how
Yeah.
this freaking happened. How do you go?
So when I blew my knee out, I was obviously devastated, right? My goal was to go to the Olympics as an athlete. And I had been building kind of a small reputation as a coach. When I say small, I couldn't even get paid for it. I was coaching athletes, but they were more like lab rats. I was coaching them for free and testing these ideas that I was creating through my own racing and understanding of training. And I thought to myself, I think I could be a very successful coach. And so I got into the coaching. And as I built my reputation as a coach, I had opportunities to work with athletes that were world class. And Brooke Crane was one of them. She's still an athlete of mine. I met her in 2012. She was from the local area, and she's just like, I want you to coach me. I need a coach that can work with me. And so, she trusted in me. She was the first world class athlete that trusted in me. And because of her, I was able to and have been able to coach many decorated athletes. I coached a kid that won the Olympics in 2016. I coached him in 2014 for a year. I've coached 2 kids that were 5-time world champions. I've coached national champions from Czech Republic, national champions from Bolivia, athletes from Australia, Germany, France, United States, 3-time Olympian Emilio Fala from Ecuador, Olympic bronze medalist from 2008, Donnie Robinson. I've just been able to coach some extremely brilliant athletes. And as a result of that, I was able to experience the Olympics with Brooke Crane in 2016 in Rio de Janeiro as her coach, where she finished 4th place in the finals. And, uh, you know, I'm glad I went as a coach, man. Being
How
there
did
as an
that
athlete, a lot of stress, man.
how
A
did
lot
that
of
feel,
stress.
man? I know you said, like, tell us. I've read it. You walked into that stadium in de Janeiro. I'm horrible at words, so if I say it wrong.
Yep.
But anyway, you walk into that, and you not too long ago, 10 years ago, you got sentenced to 4
Not even
years
that,
in
bro.
prison.
Not even
Yeah,
that.
you know,
Not even.
some
Oh, yeah. In 2017, I was getting, or 2007, I was getting sentenced, right? So
yeah,
yeah, a little less than 10 years from sentencing, but
not as
a
dumb as
lot
I
less
look.
from when I paroled. That's
Yeah,
right. You know,
but and all these people told you, your parole officer said, you're gonna fail. You're not gonna walking into that. Like, was that your come into moment? Like, hey, I fucking did this. Look at fucking Tony Hoffman.
yeah.
I know
I
you're
mean,
not a me guy, but
yeah. There was a part of, I was going through such a tough time in my personal life. I don't know that the Olympics was the fullest experience it probably could have been. But there were many moments of just absolute gratitude, right? Humbling, very humbling experience for myself. Um, But the inner competitor in me said, I fucking told you. You know, I told every one of you motherfuckers that told me that I wasn't going to do it, that this was going to happen. For the first time in my life, I wanted to quit so many times and I didn't. But for the first time in my life, I had faith. I had faith that if I just kept going, things would work out. If I just didn't stop, things would work out. If I just didn't become a victim of my circumstances or my struggles, that things would work out. And there was a very satisfying moment to be able to be there because people said I couldn't. But I think the most rewarding part was that I got to help somebody get there. As an athlete, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much. I mean, I won small time races right at the lower pro division, but winning is winning. And winning has never really felt great to me. Winning doesn't drive me as a person. And I know that everybody has their own mechanic, right? And it's like, well, if winning doesn't drive you, what does you? I'll tell you, I hate fucking losing. That's it. I don't like losing. Winning isn't even that great. I just hate losing. And I'm such a competitor at heart. I have to be involved in competition. I have to line up with you. And I have to find out if I'm as good as my ego says I am against you. And if I do get beat by you, I'm going to go back and I'm going to study tapes. I'm going to study video. I'm going to learn you and I'm going to try and figure out how to beat you. Because my ego says you can beat that guy. So to be at the Olympics, there was so much fulfillment in ego, right? Which is what I try to stay away from. There was so much more fulfillment in purpose because I was able to help somebody else be there. And then there was just the gratitude of, I'm doing it. Like my life is becoming exactly what I felt like it was going to become when I was in a prison cell. This is something I can't explain. And because of it, I just felt still. I felt at peace. And I felt like, I didn't deserve it. Many of my friends are dead right now. 14 kids that I've grown up with, they're all dead. They didn't use drugs the way I use drugs. They didn't want to sit down at the table with me and use drugs. Sitting down at the table with me using drugs was sitting down with death, sitting down with absolute darkness and watching somebody use so much dope that there's no way you're going to survive this. And if you get involved at sitting down with the table with me, you're going to play Russian roulette. And I didn't care if I was playing Russian roulette. I was ready to die because I accepted, just like your partner, I accepted this is going to kill me. I can't stop. I can't figure out how to stop. I've tried stopping, so I'm just going to run this till the wheels fall off and whatever happens, happens.
You say
and then
that
I was at the Olympics.
I know, yeah, but you sent me the diagram. It was called your 7 pillars to Hoffman's 7 pillars to sobriety. We'll bring it up on the screen so that the fans can see it. And one word that stood out to me in it is giving. Obviously, here it is on the air. Giving. You had a structure. You set something up. When is this a diagram you use for your life, or?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. Remove sobriety, put success. Remove God, spirituality, put faith. If you're a person that's trying to just accomplish goals, remove God and spirituality, put faith, change sobriety to success, and change support groups to self-improvement. And this right here is the key to seeing life do what people say can't be done and to seeing life happen in a way you never dreamed possible. If you can create a foundation that's based on faith, and everything that you do in life reverts back to your faith or God and spirituality, if you can build the first pillar of honesty, and that honesty is not just with other people, but with yourself. And I believe that honesty with yourself is the hardest part, right? Because we have to be able to look in the mirror and we have to be able to grade ourselves correctly. Many of us grade ourselves with ego. So when we stand in front of the mirror, we say, oh yeah, I'm great. Oh yeah, I'm the best. Well, in reality, you might suck. In reality, you might want to take a seat, pick up a book, or start listening to a podcast and start making some changes. Otherwise, your life is going to continue to be the same way it is. For me, rigorous honesty is not only my honesty with other people, but it's honesty within myself. And if I can be truly honest with myself, I can always course correct or navigate situations in a way that I can get better or be better as a result of success, as a result of adversity. The second pillar is willingness. And I didn't understand willingness till I was in prison. I just didn't. I was only willing to do things that I wanted to do when I wanted to do them. I had a sixth grade teacher that told me, "You're the most apathetic human being I've ever seen in my life." Because I could crush people. I was a 400-meter sprinter district champion. I was a star basketball player, a starting pitcher, all-star soccer player. But I was only great when I wanted to be. But when I was in prison, I realized that I had to have the willingness to do whatever it took, no matter what. The next pillar is giving. Honesty, willingness, giving. And I have learned that for some odd reason, everything in this world is a giving being, except for humans. Human beings seem to be the only thing that take from the world, and many of them give nothing back. And when we live in such a selfish and self-seeking manner, I think we are denied true freedom. I think we are denied true purpose. I think we are denied the potential of blessing that we would receive internally, monetarily, physically, whatever you want to call it. For me, my life is centered around giving. I can't do anything that doesn't have some type of giving component. Biblically, the Bible says that it's more blessed to give than it is to receive, and I truly believe that that is a spiritual and universal law. It is more blessed to give than it is to receive. If you don't think so, go try and help somebody in need and tell me how you feel. You'll feel a lot better than somebody helping you. It's just the way it is.
You know, I've read up about something that touches on that. You got a nonprofit, the Free Wheel Project. You mentor kids through action sports. That's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean, and this. I could have told you, nah, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know you, bro. I don't know you. You know what I mean? I don't know how many listeners you have. I don't know who's listening right now. I don't know what your background is. Like, you messaged me on Facebook. But I don't care about any of that. This is an opportunity to give myself, because there might be 10 listeners. And right now, one of those 10 is looking for something that I have that I'm going to say that gives them a tool for their life to change it. That's what matters to me. I don't need you to give me a paycheck. You know, I didn't get into speaking for a paycheck. I got into speaking because I wanted to give myself to other people. It became a paycheck because I found out that I was really good at it and I pursued it as a career. If you chase your gifts, the money will follow. I truly believe that, right? And so when I started my nonprofit, I was already in a giving mode. BMX, coaching, yeah, I get paid for it, but I'm giving myself. I'm giving my knowledge to these athletes. I'm giving myself and sacrificing myself so they can be great. Everything about what I do has to be centered around giving. So I created my nonprofit organization because I felt like that was the ultimate form of giving, right? Was for me to create an organization that would have a life-changing mission at the center of what this organization was supposed to do. And I used action sports. I used my gift. I used my passion in life as a tool to reach people. And we had a lot of success before we had to close it down this year, obviously, because I'm traveling so much as a speaker and relocating to Texas. We had to close that chapter in my life. But in 2012, I started that. Every year we gave away $40,000 worth of bicycles, $10,000 worth of skateboards, helped hundreds of kids every single year as a result of my nonprofit organization.
Is there still, if somebody wanted to donate it to your nonprofit, is there still a way they can do that, or is that on hold?
No, it's all on hold because we're closing it down, man. I'm speaking, you know, like I said, on the road 250 days a year. I tried to hire some people to run it, and they couldn't raise the money that I was able to raise on my own. And me not having time to be home working with donors and doing all of the stuff that a CEO of a nonprofit has, or an executive director, we weren't able to support ourselves on the financial side, because some people do get paid. Your executive director gets paid. Your program managers get paid. There's parts of nonprofits where salaries are involved, and we have overhead costs, and we couldn't raise those with the executive director that I hired. And so we had to step away from running those programs. So
it's still
no
an
place to donate.
awesome concept. And like you said, man, you don't know me from Jack. You didn't have to come on this show. That says a lot about you, the person. And I don't pick people. It might have seemed like random, but I do my fucking homework. And I looked into it. And I liked what I saw, man. And your message is amazing. Is there anything before we let you go? I know you're busy. Anything you want to tell the people? Anything you want to leave them with?
First of all, thank you to you guys. I take every one of these opportunities, regardless of anything, and I treat them all the same. Again, right? It's the mentality of the small things matter, and if I treat everything the same, then I'll continue to graduate opportunities. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be on Hungry for Hope. I would say to anybody that's listening to me that my story is an example of what can be done regardless of how low you are. And I tell people, don't get caught up in me going to the Olympics, because everybody's Olympics looks different. A woman who's struggling with drug addiction, that's had her children stripped from her, the Olympics is earning the right to hold your children again, right? For a person that's never had employment and was homeless, the Olympics is renting your first apartment, or buying your first home, or paying taxes for the first time. You are capable of doing incredible things and overcoming insurmountable odds if you are capable, or if you are willing to see that the walls that you've created in your life are a perspective issue. Change your perspective. If you change your perspective, you will change your view on life, and you will change the outcomes you receive. I guarantee it. And just do the work. It's okay to want to quit, just don't.
That's awesome, man. Tony, we want to thank you again, me and Tim, Hungry for Hope. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule, man.
No, thank you.
Have a great night.
Yeah,
Thanks again,
you guys.
brother.
Yeah. You guys also follow me on Instagram, Tony M. Hoffman. I have a podcast as well. You can hear more about my story. iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts app called Tony. You can just search Tony Hoffman. It's called the One Choice Podcast. Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the opportunity. You guys have a good one.
All right, see you, brother.
Later, guys.
Timmy.
All right, Yanni, you're gonna have to top that.
We got Yanni. Yanni the Greek walked in during this, and he's looking over at me. I can tell Yanni the Greek's here for sports, but Yanni, you were pretty impressed by that interviewer.
How could I not be after that that story and everything like that? Number one, first thing, and I got to put it on the podcast, right? I'm holding the rights to the TV show about the priest who sells drugs to fix the drug user. You know what I mean? That's a show right there. I'm telling you, it's on the record right now.
That was crazy, right, Tony? Tony told us how he went to church because his drug dealer was the pastor.
Yeah, man.
Let me get a Hail Mary, 3 Percocets, and a bag of Coke.
I mean he built, and he did a great job of building this. You could tell this guy's a professional speaker. Great job of building the scene where the priest touches his head and everything like that. That was great imagery there.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting, man. And speaking of exciting, Yanni, NFL, pretty damn exciting this week. We didn't bring you here to talk about inspirational guests. We brought you here to do sports. So, Yanni,
absolutely,
do your job, Yanni.
I'm ready. Decent week last week. The football god smiled on the Hungry for Hope podcast. You had a decent week,
Yanni. You killed it with your picks. I don't want you to reveal. First off, I want our viewers who listen, we have a question for them. I want them to pick out what pick you got wrong. You got one pick wrong. Whoever can give me this pick, we will be giving a bag of bean-to-bean coffee to whoever can tell us what pick our sports expert got wrong. He only got one wrong. We will give you bean-to-bean coffee. It's located right in Philly and Port Richmond, one bean at a time. They were our sponsor today for our guest, Tony Hoffman.
It's delicious, by the way.
The coffee's great. The people are even better. And, they're going to give whoever can pick what team you got wrong. So we'll wait for somebody to come with that, and then we'll go from there. But
Okay.
let's start with the Eagles, Jan. What do you think about that?
Definitely. Well, is it nice to talk about the team after a W or what? Looks like that decision. I guess I'll get ahead of you here. Looks like that decision to punt against the Bengals comes in handy because the Eagles sit at first place after defeating the San Francisco 49ers backups. So far of their backups. So
They're like our backups, too. The Eagles are basically essentially playing backups. People are touching the ball that I never heard of.
So the two most influential players in this game were a wide receiver from Old Dominion and a linebacker from Montana State. I mean, does it get any better than that? Listen, I mean, you don't need those there's tons of examples, right? But like, no matter where you come from, if you put in the work and prepare you can make the game-changing play, which looks like it's a yearly thing, right? We're going to have the Eagles win a game with some unknown player. Last year at Green Bay, it was Craig James with a big breakup. Now we have Alex Singleton, the roving linebacker from Montana State, and the big receiver Travis Fulgham, who, of course, caught that pass. My God, it was that the best pass of the season for Carson Wentz easily, right?
Right. And you know what they say.
Dime.
You know what they say, hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard.
Absolutely.
And that's what these guys are doing right now.
So on Wentz, since we need to dissect his play every week apparently on the show, did he need to see that pass happen or what? I relate it to a shooter, right? I relate it to, like Jimmy Butler.
Like a shooter, boom, or?
To a basketball shooter.
Basketball.
Like a three-point shooter, you know what I mean?
Jimmy Butler to God.
You go cold a little bit, you need to see that one go in, and then all of a sudden you heat up. I'm hoping that's what goes down for our friend Carson here the rest of the season. Tough sled in the head.
You think, we had the one guy, Larry from Levittown, had asked, now that you see the Eagles are in first place.
That's right.
I know we've really bashed that decision for them to go for the tie instead of the win. Looking back now, Larry wants to know, Yanni, was that the right decision?
I mean, you can't argue with it now. You can't argue with it. If he thought he was going to miss the field goal, it works. Listen, there's a reason why these NFL coaches get paid what they get paid. They are smarter than us, right? Doug Peterson particularly. Maybe some coaches, maybe the one down in Houston, or
was down in
Houston. It's a little less than that. Tough situation for Bill O'Brien there, but yeah, he'll land on his feet. He's a good coach.
So
just not as a head coach.
So you called me dumb. You said coaches were smarter than me.
Mm-hmm.
So Yanni, what picks do you have in NFL this week?
All right, so
we're also going to do your video later in the week.
Sure.
If anything changes, things change. So Saturday we're going to bring in Yanni's picks of the week.
Right.
Just any update. People get hurt. Things happen. These smart coaches, make moves.
That's right. And
what are your picks now?
That was the basis behind putting the picks out on Saturday last week. Besides, we were in Atlantic City, which it just felt right. But it's just a few injuries that we want to watch. So my number one pick for next week, I like the Cardinals to cover 7 on the road against the Jets. The Jets are sitting in line. They got their ticket in hand to fire their coach as well. One more embarrassing display, and Adam Gase is probably on his way out the door. Arizona needs to get right. Don't know.
They're coming off a loss, correct?
They're coming off 2 straight losses to the Lions and the Panthers. So don't really know what happened there with that Arizona team, but the Jets are get-right material, so I think they do so on the road here. Tomorrow night, we got a replay of Super Bowl 52. Tom Brady, Nick Foles square off on Thursday Night Football, albeit for different teams. I think that's going to be a little bit of lower scoring game. Both teams a little banged up.
Nick Foles lost this week.
Nick Foles lost this week. The Bears can't break 20 points. So
if I was them, I would put Trubisky in for like a quarter, maybe 10 minutes.
And then
boom,
relief
put Nick Foles in. Yeah,
that's how Nick Foles works. Good. So who do you like in that game, Jan? What's the spread?
That's a 3.5-point spread. The Bucs are favored on the road. Road favorites on Thursday Night Football is always tough. So my play, and I know you hate unders, Donnie, but I like the under 44.5. It is a low number, but Thursday night, you know how sloppy those things are. Banged up teams. Brady, who has been killing it on the big plays. The Bears don't allow many big plays, so I'm thinking this is a closely played contest here. Not a lot of scoring. Give me the under.
Should people start looking at Tom Brady and them Bucks as serious? Are they a contender? Are they?
And I mean, they haven't played at full health all year. So a couple of these guys start getting healthy. Godwin has been inactive last game, and he will be inactive tomorrow. Chris Godwin, the receiver, and Mike Evans has been battling an injury all.
Yeah, he came in back from the locker room last week, right?
Exactly. Yeah, he's been in and out of the lineup, just kind of nagging stuff. Tall receivers, it's tough, you know what I mean? Especially anything in the lower half, it takes forever to heal.
So should I start Mike Evans this week or Justin Jefferson?
If you got Mike Evans, you're starting Mike Evans. But I love Justin Jefferson, man. I mean,
all right, Yanni, we're gonna go back to you doing your job, Yanni.
We won't get into it.
You know, you could talk, all that fantasy talk later. Do your job, Yanni. What are your
not
picks?
About fantasy, man.
I don't care. This is real world right now. We're not in fantasy. We're not in whatever you want to call it.
Damn it, Donnie, stop yelling at me. All
What
right.
are your picks? Do your job, Yanni.
Go. We got another big spread. Vegas at Kansas City. Vegas 13.5-point favorites.
Favorites?
I'm sorry, underdogs.
Okay.
That really jumped out to
That's
me.
a big spread.
It is. So
our one viewer, Inky's a huge Vegas fan. He likes them. He said they're legit.
I looked into it. The Raiders' injury report is like 3 pages long. So that's what's going on there. But they are on tap to receive a few players back. Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs, the receivers, 2 rookie receivers. At least one of them looks like they're going to come back, probably Edwards. Trent Brown, they missed last game. They're starting left tackle. It looks like he's on track to come back. And LaMarcus Joyner, safety corner, kind of that roving role. He's the captain of that defense. He calls the secondary coverages and all like that. So if he comes back, you look for that defense to stabilize and maybe just, listen, 13.5 points, right? It's a big spread. I can definitely see them coming into the back door there on the road in a division game.
You picked Baltimore plus 13.5 last week, and
Minus.
minus 13.5. I'm sorry, I'm not the sports expert. I'm dumber than Doug Peterson.
And you know what? Can we go analyst? Like expert sounds so like pretentious. You know what I mean? Like, can we go analyst?
As long as you do your job, Yanni, you can be whatever you want.
Cool,
I'll call you Bozo the Clown in here. You can come in
Whatever.
and juggle. As
Bozo
long
the
as
analyst.
you give us the picks.
Gotcha. All right, cool, thanks. This
guy's gonna tell me we just had a guy go from prison to Olympics as our guest, and Yanni, the analyst,
you're over here calling me an expert.
You ever go from prison to the Olympics, Yanni?
No,
then you're gonna be called whatever I say. You're
prison
called. Now,
comes later.
Give your picks.
I gotcha. Moving along into the Eagles division, Dallas versus the New York Giants. Dallas 9.5-point favorites at home. Dallas, of course, just exploded on offense, trying to come back in that game against the Browns. I don't know what's happened in that defense, and no one is giving out any effort. But the Cowboys, I think, are better than the record that they're playing, and they're ready to crush this Giants team. I'm going back. I'm going back to the well. The Giants covered and. Shit.
No, the Giants.
Never mind.
The Giants
You
were
guys
the
guess
one.
What happened?
The one team.
Did anyone guess it? Did I blow
that
it?
you
Yeah.
The Giants played the Rams. You had the Rams plus 10.5. Minus 10.5. Everybody I knew had that pick, Yanni. That was like the pick of the week. And that was the one the one you got wrong. You got great games. You had Cincinnati over. You had the New Orleans Saints. You had the Eagles with the points. But that was the one you got wrong.
Absolutely.
But
So
you're saying New York's not going to put it up next week?
No, I like Dallas to cover the 10 points. But can we talk about that game? Because there was some intrigue at the end of that Rams Giants game.
That game cost one of our viewers $10,000, Yanni.
I saw.
$10,000. They picked all your picks.
He probably should have hedged his bet.
Definitely. But so at the end,
it was
of the game,
hard because the Saints game was still up for question.
Yeah.
And the Baltimore game. That's why. Yeah, you can't always.
Mm-hmm.
But
real quick, because I think our viewers would like this story. So
yeah, it's your show, Jan.
Jalen Ramsey and Golden Tate. Golden Tate, the receiver for the Giants. Jalen Ramsey, cornerback for the Rams. Apparently, Ramsey dated Golden Tate's sister or something, and
how does she look?
Up and left her. I don't know. Up and left her with 2 kids. Like, you know what I mean?
It seems like more than dating.
Real bad blood type thing. So they were chippy the entire game. At some point in time, Ramsey just lit up Golden Tate, and at the end of the day, end of the game, they started throwing blows. The whole team got into it. maybe that was why that game was a little tighter than we thought. I would recommend you go look into it because it's hilarious.
Awesome. Is that all your picks, Jan?
No, I'm good. I got one more. Sorry.
Yeah, I need
more,
a sports pick guy.
Yeah, the analyst.
Yeah. Sorry, I got plenty more. All right.
Just do your job, Jan.
I'm coming back with the Seahawks. Seahawks playing Sunday Night Football at home against the Minnesota Vikings. 7-point spread there. The Vikings got right against the now coachless Houston Texans. I like the Seattle to cover that touchdown spread. Minnesota is an opponent they know well, and I think know that they need to go in there and crush them. And I think that happens. So lay the points there. And Monday Night Football, the Clippers. I keep calling them the Clippers. The Chargers.
You're the analyst, Jan.
The Chargers at the New Orleans Saints, but an asterisk for this game because apparently it might be played in Indianapolis. Keep an eye on the Chargers injury report in that game, too. A lot of injuries there, but they should get some players back.
Yeah, their doctor might puncture somebody's lungs on the sidelines.
Make sure you keep that guy away
I think
from
you
the
did
needles.
them a favor.
But especially if that game gets moved to Indy.
So that's all your
funny
picks,
stuff
Jan?
there to take the points 8.5. Yeah, I also have the Washington under, but that game's so boring.
All right, well, we're going to have Saturday. Look forward, everybody, to Yanni's picks of the week. We're going to have that. We didn't get as much time with you, Jan, because we had Tony Hoffman, man, from prison to the Olympics. I hope everybody listened to his story. I hope you took something out of that, man. He definitely preached what we preach, man. Like, don't let your circumstances define your life, your future, man. He took that rock bottom, in prison for 4 years. He took his rock bottom, and he made that the foundation to his dreams. Rock bottom does not have to be your end. It can be your beginning. Tim, anything you want to tell these guys before we get the hell out of here? Hungry for Hope Nation.
Thanks for listening. Thanks to Bean the Bean Coffee for putting that, even though nobody got it. And Yanni, the sports pick guy, ruined it for everybody.
No, I mean, you can still say it.
Anybody who would like Bean the Bean Coffee, you can go to beanthebean.com. They're locally owned.
It's delicious.
Locally brewed. They're good people doing good things. Guys, Hungry for Hope Nation, we're out of here. We'll see you next week. Let's do it, Tim. Let's get out of here.